Hey everyone, Jacob here, back again with another video. This time, another Talking Terror episode. First and foremost, I know it's been a while since the last Talking Terror. Uh, I mean, plain and simple, been busy with school and other projects and stuff, but part of my goals for 2023 was to kind of pick back up with the podcast. So hopefully, we could be doing more of these, every so often. My goal originally was once a month, but that was 4 months ago. So, but anyway, big news on the podcast. We are now sponsored. I'm now a Fangoria affiliate. You can see with the hat, and so therefore, this podcast is brought to you by Fangoria. At the time of the podcast recording, it was, I believe, March 3rd, March 4th. So might be a little late to get this one, but if you subscribe to Fangoria with my discount code, you could get 20% off an entire order or a subscription. I mean, obviously, just one-time subscription, and first subscription order only. And yeah, you get the cool issues. This was my Fangoria Evil Dead issue, which I just got back from seeing Evil Dead finally. It was fucking amazing. So definitely check out Fangoria. Link will be in the bio, and use that discount code Jacob the Harper. I'll once again have a link in the bio for y'all. So anyway, on further news on the podcast, my guest today, or for this episode, was Peter Hatch, who runs Deformed Lunchbox. I'll have a link to all his stuff down below as well. Fantastic creative. He runs Deformed. I think he runs. He's great. He's great. Peter Hatch was an amazing guest, and I hope to have him back on again. He was great to talk to, and we talked for so long that the podcast ended up being about 3 or 4 hours. um, so yeah. So with that said, this episode will be in 2 parts. Part 1, part 2. And I'm going to release them weekly. So if you're watching part 1 right when it's uploaded, in about a week, I'll do a part 2. And then I'll have on another guest, and I'll try to not do another 4-hour episode. But let me know if you like the long form stuff. I know older episodes of the podcast were like 40 minutes to an hour. This is almost 2-hour parts. So yeah. Let me know what you think about the new long form stuff. If you like the shorter stuff, let me know that too. Any critique or feedback is always welcome in the comments, you guys. But anyway, that's about it. Enjoy the podcast. It was super fun talking to Peter, and I hope to have him back on. And once again, a link to all his stuff down below, and a link to all my socials down below if you want to throw me a follow, catch up on some stuff. And yeah, that's about it. Enjoy the video, guys. Peace out. Hello, everyone. This is Jacob Harper with Talking Terror, and today I'm being joined by Mr. Peter Hatch. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. I've been looking forward to this.
Of course. Oh, me too, me too. And we're finally getting back into the podcast.
Yes.
Uh, hopefully I can keep this consistent this time. But yeah. Just so to start, you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, how you do
Sure.
it.
So yeah, I work in the film industry here in Toronto, Canada. I work on set as like a DIT, kind of like I do color and I handle the monitors and live streams and all that kind of nerd stuff. But on the side, I kind of years ago started this YouTube channel for some of my short films. I've been making short films since high school and never stopped. And I just one day decided to post them online, and now it's got a little bit of a following, and we have enough following, we get a little bit of ad revenue, and we put it back and make more shorts. So we got this thing called Deformed Lunchbox where we make horror shorts, and we're trying to make bigger, better movies all the time. So it's kind of like it's an outlet for me to make messed up horror films. So yeah.
That's sick. That's sick. Yeah, Deformed Lunchbox. That's how I reached out to you through email for the first time with that. Um, yeah, I'm a big fan of Deformed Lunchbox. If you all haven't seen it, go check it out. It's great YouTube channel. I think my introduction to it was we were scrolling through just watching like short horror on like YouTube. I mean, my roommates were, and we came across the short making me a sandwich. That was the first one, and I was like,
That's our most popular short film by
and it's
far.
still my favorite. I guess I'm a basic fan then.
I know, there was
I saw it. I
no deep
loved it.
cut, no deep cut on that one.
I loved it.
Uh,
I loved it. And my
yeah,
room was like, that's so interesting. Oh my god, that's like really. I was like the twist at the end. I was like, what the hell? That was good.
yeah, it did. That's kind of the movie that got our channel a lot of exposure, and I think it's done really well because it's almost like the "Make Me a Sandwich" is almost like a meme, right? It's like people, it's like kind of the misogynist meme of like you yell at a woman, "Make me a sandwich," but I feel like by doing the short film, we've kind of like taken over the meme in a way. So if you Google for the meme or you write it down, we're gonna pop up, and we kind
Right.
of like, but I kind of like it because we've kind of like um I don't know, kind of dispelled maybe the misogyny around it, kind of like put a hyper light on it a little bit with the film.
Yeah, you kind of like reclaimed,
Uh
like I stole it.
a little bit, or just kind of
Yeah.
like taking the theme of that concept of a meme of like, someone yelling at usually it's yelling at a woman to make you a
Hmm.
sandwich, but kind of like twisting it on its head. And it's yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No, yeah.
People love
Well,
twists.
no, it's like, and it's so short. I think the movie's like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, is that y'all's shortest piece or
No, we have ones that are like 30 seconds.
right?
But it's like we kind of focus on what I guess you would call like the short, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like 1 to 3 minutes. Honestly, mostly because of budget.
Right.
Just because it's every minute on screen is like you can think of it as a cost per minute. And usually that's been my approach is that rather than doing like a 10 or I see people doing 20-minute short films. I'm like, well, if your budget's only, a couple $1,000 or even less, why not put as much hyper focus on the best minute you can make? Rather than stretch it out over 20 minutes and have all these mistakes and have sound problems and have to cut corners. So I'm very much on that. The short, I love the short. It's fun. It's fun. It's easy to watch on a phone. Yeah, it's a cool format.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
I, I like it because I've always been nervous about the short approach because every like for me as a writer, every time I'm writing, I'm like, well, I want to put this in, I want to try to make this longer, and I'm like, because I read the script, I'm like, oh, that's too short. No one's gonna want to. And I'm like, oh no, you have to let it happen. You have to
It's
accept that
interesting.
it'll be a short story because it's a short
Yeah,
film.
it's interesting. It kind of goes both ways, right? Because we recently had a short film we released that's 13 minutes.
Yeah.
And actually, I wrote it, I produced it, I edited it, but another director, a friend of mine, directed it. So he kind of took the reins on directing, and he took I think the script was 4 pages, and he's like, let's
Mhm.
add and make it bigger and grander, and he did, and we're finding that people are really loving the longer formats. But it
Mhm.
just comes down to to be honest, I don't know if I should say this, but he like the director, it's a more expensive movie budget wise because it's
Right.
longer. So it's more sensitive around that. So when I'm writing a short, I mean, unfortunately, something we have to do in the indie world is I'm writing around the budget I have, which is usually
Mhm.
like nothing.
Right.
So I'm usually like, okay, well, what can I write that takes place in my apartment or my mom's house or the woods? And I pay everyone, I pay cast and crew, but it's always pretty low. It's like $100 or $200 a day cash.
Right.
So I'm usually thinking, okay, well, what can I do that hasn't have a ton of actors in it? And then I also think if we need sound, if we need someone to do sound like dialogue, dialogue is not cheap, especially, I mean, you can sort of pull it off sometimes yourself on the cheap, but if you really want it done right and you want every take to be recorded properly, you have to hire a professional. And that's expensive. That can be a couple $100 a day as well on the low end. So I'm also writing a lot. You might notice a lot of our shorts have no dialogue because I'm like, okay, I want to make a short, but I don't. Our budgets are so low, so it's like writing and creating around very confined limitations. And
Yeah.
I actually like doing it now. I kind of like doing it around limitations because it's like a fun challenge that gets creativity out of you. But yeah.
That's also this. I like the confined, like the limitations whenever you're like on like an indie level, because like I said, it does challenge you to think around the box,
Mhm.
because I remember like what I do, I, especially for my first short film, I write around locations. I'm
Yeah,
like, what do I
smart.
have access to today?
Yeah,
If I want to, I can get a camera. I can go there today and film something. Where
smart.
can I do that at? And there's this big woods behind my house, and that's where I shot Hunting Terror. And so when I wrote the script, I was like, I'm just gonna write about only in these woods, and the whole thing is just in these woods. So I can go out there
So
all day and film, and no one would tell me, "Hey, get the hell out of here," or "Hey, you're not allowed to film here."
that's the way to do it, man.
And,
I mean, I
and then yeah, that's how you do it.
like I think sometimes I do. Sometimes I write, and then when I start writing, I'll say to myself, no, there's no limitations on this. And so I've written like sci-fi movies and stuff where they're in space or they're in futuristic cities, and then you just can go wild. But I don't know, something with the genre of horror where it's almost like to be smaller and grittier. There's something kind of scarier about that. I don't know
Oh yeah,
about that. I don't know.
absolutely, absolutely. Like you go back to like with Saw, with James Wan and Leigh Whannell, when they wrote that, it's just two guys in one room, and the whole
Yeah,
movie's in the one room, and then in the future they added the detective stuff and the extra shit with like the
yeah.
traps, but the original short was just them in the one room.
I mean, even the first Saw movie, which is like limited in scope compared to the rest of the Saw movies,
Absolutely.
I still think is the best one.
Oh, me too. I binged all the Saw movies before Spiral came out, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever that came out, and we were just having a blast because the Saw
They're
movie.
they're fun. You know what? I there's one of them. I think it's Saw Zero, where it's like the fifth or sixth one, and it like somehow ties all of it together. And I remember watching that one, and be like, wow, they actually did it. They like
No,
tied it
yeah,
together. I'm like,
absolutely.
kind of impressive.
Like we were watching it, and me and my roommates were just like, "This is such a fucking soap opera." Because like characters from like 5 movies ago, like they have like a big reveal, like it's a
I
Marvel
know.
movie or something. And me and my friends were like in our dorm, like, "Yes!" Like they
Yeah,
cheer and
just
clap. Like
retconning character.
that's the guy from part two. Let's.
Yeah. But I gotta say the
It's great.
Saw the new Spiral Saw movie I thought was not very good. I really didn't like it at all. Like,
Yeah, it had a big mixed reception, and like I enjoyed a lot of it. Surprisingly, I was like I wasn't one of the people in my like group who was like, "Yeah, that's sick." Because
you know
like
what it is?
I went in like expecting it to not be another Saw movie. I was like, "This is
True.
not going to be Saw." If you
I just
want
thought the
Saw,
ending
you're
was
gonna
very
watch.
abrupt. I thought the ending was weirdly abrupt. But
Yeah.
the real reason I don't like it is because it was filmed around here, Toronto, and my
Oh, really?
friend was cast in it. So he got really excited. We were all excited for him. He's like, "I'm in Chris Rock's new Saw movie," and then they cut his part out. And
Ooh.
I said to him, "I go, I will forever hate this movie now
So now
because
it's personal.
they got personal."
Right. No, yeah, like it's one of those things where like it's so tricky. These
Yeah.
like movies, like the whole like requel thing. Every like major horror movie franchise is getting like a comeback or a
I'm trying to
revitalization.
I'm trying to think of a revival that I liked.
I like the
It's hard. It's
Candyman
hard.
one. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, out of all the requels, I think Candyman was the most well
Really?
executed. Yeah, because
You know
it
what?
didn't really rely on nostalgia. Because for the most part,
You're
the
right.
movie
It
the
didn't.
movie was original until like the third. No, it wasn't until like the third act where they revealed that the dude was like the son or the baby that was
Yeah.
kidnapped in the first one. They waited till like
It was
last minute to do that.
it felt like it didn't feel like a reboot. It felt like a sequel.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the whole requel thing. I was like, I think out of all of them, that's the one that did it the most smoothly. Because the rest of them, like I love Halloween 2018, but
Same.
that was very obviously like, hey, remember the original? Well, this is
Homage. It's an homage.
it's an
Exactly.
homage. Yeah, well, where Candyman was like, let's tell an original story, but then slowly tether it back to the original, which I think
I
it did it
guess
the most smoothly out of
I
all of
guess
them.
for me, the original Candyman, I remember watching as a kid and it being just absolutely one of the scariest movies because it's like, someone's older sister had it on VHS, right? Uh,
Right.
uh, but the new one I just didn't find scary at all. And I get like at all. Like it didn't have a single scare or anything for me at all. I felt no tension. And I get that like the themes were I guess my thing was the original Candyman. The themes, I like when the themes are a little more buried in the movie and require a little more of me to unwrap it. Where I
Mm,
felt like the new Candyman, the theme was a little more forefront, and I don't know, it's something about it. The theme being so heavily forefront in the new one just kind of, I don't know. It didn't challenge me in any way. It was like, okay,
right.
you're taking the theme from the original, but you're like extracting it and making it more obvious. Where the
Yeah.
original with gentrification and race and all those things in the original were like really interesting subtext.
Because with the original, you kind of had to like kind of burrow through Candyman's story to get to the themes. Like
Exactly.
Candyman at first glance is this horrific monster, this ghost, this phantom who's very murderous and bloodthirsty. But then you start sifting through that, and then the themes reveal themselves. Whereas the original, they kind of wanted to get right to the chase with it, and then have Candyman be like a catalyst to that
Yeah.
rather than the reverse. Which I mean, I don't have a preference either way because like I said, I enjoyed the Candyman requel, but I definitely see that they did a flip on what order it goes in: monster first versus theme second.
Yeah.
Themes first, monster second.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know, just personal taste. But I will say one of the requels or reboots, whatever, that I have really liked is the Chucky show.
Yes, yeah, I'm still working through season two, which Don
I,
Mancini
I'm
helping
not
me
I'm
out.
not through it
It's
either,
been
but
like 6 months, but
it's just really well done and really true to the original. And yeah, I'm enjoying
exactly.
it a lot.
Well, it's
Yeah.
because it's had the same for the most part creative team behind it. I mean, Tom Holland directed the first Child's Play, but Don Mancini has been writing the Child's Play franchise since the beginning, so it's
And
all
they
from the same
removed him.
boys.
Mancini wasn't on the reboot one they did a few years ago.
No, no, that was like a completely like new team from like a
Yeah,
whole new company. I think it was like Orion like
it
helped
wasn't
make
that
it.
great. I thought the gore and the stuff was well done, but I don't
Yeah,
like I don't know if I like the idea of Chucky being like an AI gone wrong. I think I'd like the
yeah.
idea of a murderer being going into the soul of a doll. Like,
Me too. It makes it more personal because like
yeah,
with AI, it's a cold robot, and that didn't really come across. It's like it wanted to be possessed, Chucky, but
yeah,
it didn't go all the way with either idea. Which
the AI is played, like the whole AI takeover is a little played out.
right?
So
Did you see the movie Megan?
yeah, I did actually. I saw it in theaters.
What'd you think of that?
I don't think I liked it as much as everybody else. Like I liked it, but I felt that it was a little bit corny. Like I mean, spoilers. The
Right,
ending, I really didn't like that whole rock'em sock'em bop'em ending. I thought that was like cringe as hell. And I just think that there was a lot of potential in like that first half, and I think the doll is so creepy and well done, and her voice, that it was like a whole missed opportunity.
right,
And I also felt like it's the kind of movie that really deserved the R rating. And I know that they went for PG-13, but
right.
you don't acid wash a person's face and not show me what the face looks like after the acid wash. Like, what is that?
Exactly. Like that was such like an '80s movie kill,
I know, and
and
it's
I
like
was
they
surprised.
lead
I
up
was
to it and
surprised.
everything. They said, "Oh, there's acid wash." It's the mean neighbor. Like, you knew she was gonna die, but it's
Oh,
like for
absolutely.
us not to see it is a little I don't know. I don't know. I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10.
They are releasing the unrated version on Blu-ray, so come
I
Blu-ray
know
season,
I heard that, but
maybe you'll change your mind. I don't know.
I also
I'm
heard that
excited for it.
when they filmed it, they knew it was going to be PG-13, so there actually isn't this like gory version. It's probably just going to be like a
Oh,
little
that
more
sucks.
swearing, maybe.
Right. Oh,
And
well.
the kills that were there, I thought were pretty weak. I mean, and ultimately, it's a slasher in a way, and I think
Mm-hmm.
slashers, you got to deliver some of the goods, you know. And guy getting stabbed with a rebar isn't really that exciting when
I
it's not even
agree.
on. But anyways, and also I will complain. The theater I saw it in, they screwed up the sound, so we watched the whole movie in stereo sound, and
Oh,
it bothered me to the point where I had to like lean forward and give it an ear to really hear all the dialogue, and I'm like, this is not good.
yeah. That's definitely due for a rewatch. Then that's definitely. I mean, if not for the content, for just a better experience, because that's just
I
awful.
hope it turns into like a long running series, and maybe the number two is the great
Yeah, because
one or
they announced
something.
a sequel. Like they kind of pulled a scream and they announced a sequel like a week after it came out. I was like, what the hell?
But
Um,
they already used the 3 as the E, so they can't do that for the third one.
I know. I was like, you jumped the shark a little bit there. Why didn't you just call him Megan? Because
Exactly.
when I saw
How
the trailer, I thought that was just a stylistic choice. But then I looked up on IMDb. I'm like, that's actually how the fucking movie is titled. I was like,
yeah. It's like how they released Casino Royale, James Bond Casino Royale in 2006, and then they released Quantum of Solace in 2007. They only had one shot in 1,000 years to release it in the year 007. So now we'll have to wait till the year 3007 for them to get it right. It's like, why?
God,
The year before, the year after, you had this
like
one. It would have been so cool for the poster coming in to like 007.
the Omen remake isn't the best, but one thing I do like is how on the poster it comes out. I think June 6th, 2006.
Oh,
And
so
like, yeah,
666.
the release date was six, and I was like, man, that must have been sick seeing that movie on 666. That was
I
no
haven't
matter
seen
how
that
shit.
one.
If the movie was shit, I mean, I haven't watched it forever. If the movie was bad, I wouldn't have cared. Seeing a demon movie on 666 was probably such a fucking cool experience.
It probably, yeah,
And
totally.
that was just smart marketing. Like whether the movie was good or not, that was smart marketing. So I love when movies do that.
For sure. Did you
But
watch Infinity Pool?
I haven't yet. I didn't come to my local theater. I didn't come to any of
It's a
them. I'm
pretty
like,
limited,
damn.
yeah.
I know. I have like a list of movies that are on video on demand I need to watch. I saw Knock at the Cabin though, which
How
that's
was
a
that? I
Megan.
haven't seen that one yet.
What I was talking to a coworker about this. I was surprised that Megan was PG-13 and Knock at the Cabin was R. Because
Hmm.
I watched Knock at the Cabin, I thought it was PG-13 because like all like the violent shit that happens is like it's like kind of a just out of frame like before
Huh.
each. I mean, I don't know if that's a spoiler, but
I
like
wonder if it's swearing then.
it must be because it wasn't really showing a lot because there's like some violent stuff that happens in that movie, but it doesn't really show it full frontal. And I was like, oh, it's supposed to be PG-13 then. And I see Megan, I saw the acid bath scene, and I was like, what's this rated again? And I checked. Megan's the one rated PG-13 and Knock at the Cabins are. And I was like, you don't need to
Huh.
switch because
Was it good though? Like what I mean,
I
I
love
like
Knock at
M
the
Night
Cabin.
Shyamalan. I even like old.
Yeah, I like M. Night Shyamalan too. I saw people saying this is one of his worst movies. I'm like,
Have
how
you
the fuck?
seen The Last Airbender?
Yeah, I've seen the last Airbender, and I don't even hate Signs. Or no, well, no,
I
sorry,
like
no, I
Signs.
love Signs. Sorry, The Happening. That's why I meant.
No, The Happening is awful. I'm sorry.
I don't mind The Happening, but even then, compared to his other work, it's not that great. Signs is one of my favorites. Signs, The Village, and I have a
Sixth
soft
Sense,
Sixth Sense. Yeah,
Unbreakable. I
I have
like
a
Split.
I have a soft spot for The Visit because I saw it like
That's a good one. The
I
one with the
saw it like in my
grandma. Yeah.
yeah, I saw it like in my middle school, early high school years where I was like getting into like seeing movies in like theaters, like horror movies in theaters. So I have a soft spot. Not a lot of people like that one, but I like The
You
Visit.
don't have to. There's no apology there. I think that the Visit's a good movie. It's a good
Thank you,
found
thank
footage movie,
you.
and
It's
it's a little bit
fun.
popcorny, but it's I liked it. I even liked the movie he
Yeah.
wrote, the elevator one. What's it called?
Yes.
Devil in the Elevator or
I always
something.
thought he directed, yeah, Devil. I always thought he directed that one. I love that one.
It's
I
fun. It's a
thought
fun movie.
it's so fun. The old lady at the end, I was like, what the fuck is going on? But I
I will
love,
say with M. Night Shyamalan, I gotta say though, the Last Airbender, The Happening, was it After Earth? He did that movie After Earth, I think, with Will Smith, and he also did what's that other one? Glass. Those are four of the worst movies I've ever seen. They're absolutely awful. Glass is so awful. It ruined. It almost made the Split and Unbreakable retroactively worse. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
I
want to hate
mean,
on movies here, but
oh yeah, no, I mean, I try not to, but also like, I mean, critiquing is fine. Like, I mean, my
totally
whole thing with what was it? I didn't watch Glass
don't.
because I hadn't seen Unbreakable prior to seeing Split, so I saw Split in theaters, and
Oh,
he has this Marvel-esque post-credit scene, and I'm like, who's that? And my dad's
that's
like, oh,
funny.
that's Bruce Willis. Yeah, that's a reference to Unbreakable. I was like,
If you hadn't have seen
I was like, what's he
Unbreakable,
doing?
that whole scene would be so lost on you. But I
I
guess
was like,
because
why is he doing that?
I feel like I'm probably a little older than you because I saw Unbreakable in theaters when I was younger, and I loved it. Like it was just like I just was such a great movie. So when I
Right,
saw Split, I saw it in theaters too. And when they had that scene at the end and they have the music from Unbreakable playing, and they have, I actually was like, whoa. M. Night Shyamalan has done it again. He's found some sort of twist that I did not expect and made me excited because he's like somehow
right.
made it a sequel to a movie 20 years ago. I don't know. I thought it was a good one.
No, yeah, I love Split. And then when
Same.
Glass came out, I was like, oh, so I guess he's like doing like a superhero s type thing here, where
It's
the two
really
with
that.
powers are fighting. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know how M. Night Shyamalan's doing that, but I never watched it. I meant to go watch it, and I never did.
It's quite awful. It's quite awful. I
Right.
would I mean I would watch it just to see like the worst thing you could do with that series they did.
I mean, it's a lesson to learn, you know.
It's
It's
a
one
lot.
of the.
I like bad movies, you know.
Oh, me too. Me too. I watch plenty of them, and there's movies that are like bad, and there's movies that are like, why would you do that?
Yeah, that's Glass.
Like for me, and one thing that, and I hate to do this, but one thing that kind of feels like that for me is Texas Chainsaw 3D. I saw it when it came out when I was younger. I was like 12 when it came out, and I watched it, and I was just happy to be watching a Chainsaw Massacre movie. So I thought it was fine. And then I got older, I rewatched it in context of like it's supposed to be kind of one of the first requels,
I
and
don't know if I've seen
it
that one.
absolutely just drops the ball on every because it markets itself as this true direct sequel. Well, yeah, requels do. But it was trying to be Halloween 2018 before Halloween 2018,
Hmm.
and it completely baited and switched because
Hmm.
the whole I don't know if you've seen. Yeah, you said you haven't seen it.
I don't. To me, I the Texas Chainsaw, the first one, the next chapter, and the new ones stand out for me. But the two, 3D, they're all kind of blur in my mind. Dennis Hopper's in one of them, isn't he? Like,
Yeah, he's in Chainsaw. I mean, Chainsaw Master is one of my favorite franchises. I mean, I don't know if you see Chainsaw
okay.
Master.
So obviously, we can talk about the new one a little bit because that was a
Yeah,
requel that I thought was not as bad as other people said it was.
it grew on me. It grew on me a
Yeah.
lot, actually. Kind of like my Megan grew on me. I watched it for the first time and I was like, yeah, that was all right. And then the more I like, was rewatching clips and I was kind of, looking more at stuff up, and I was like, I actually really like this. My only problem is like I feel like there was a missed opportunity with a cooler ending. I like wrote like
Of
a
the
I,
of the new one.
no, of Megan.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean,
I rewrote like my own like little ending of Megan, and I was like, this would have been cooler, but whatever.
but to go back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I thought the remake had a pretty cool ending, with that annoying lead character Karen cut
That
off.
surprised me. I was like,
Same.
I was just there. I was like, well, we're kind of crawling our way towards the end here, and it's whatever. I thought it was fine, and then that ending, I was like, okay, that bumped it up half a
Yeah.
star for me, just that
Same.
ending,
I had to
because
like
it was just
rewind
so
it and watch it
shocking. Like
again. Yeah.
I was just also like
It's
at least
it's all in one shot too. It's not like they do all these
yeah,
cuts to do it. It was really effective.
it was like the last like minute. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
And that bus
Bus
scene
scene
for
is
me
great.
probably
I
raises the whole movie like 2 points in my book.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
that powerful. He kills so many people. It's crazy.
There's that one shot where the girl's trying to climb out the window and they're following, and
And
you
it's
see out of the
tracking and
edge
she
of the
falls.
screen, yeah,
So
you
good.
see the chase go behind her, then she falls in the. I was like, oh, that's such a good shot. I
I think
love
I
that.
saw someone say online, they're like, this is the first time the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has actually like killed a lot of people with a chainsaw. Like in other movies, there's all these other ways they get killed. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
there
usually
is a
a
little chainsawing.
hammer or yeah, like in the
Yeah, or a
first
hook.
one. Yeah, the first one's a meat hook, and then they get like their legs sawed off and they like, bleed out, or they get hit with a hammer and die instantly.
Yeah,
That's
that first one's great though, man. It's
the
so
first
good.
one. That's my number one favorite film of all time. I think. It,
Wow. Okay, it's on
I
my
have
top
such
100 list,
I
but
have such a deep love for that movie. Like it's insane. And like the more I kind of watched about the requel that they like the new requel that they did, the more I was appreciative of it because like it wasn't. And I have to get out of my head of like what I would want and think about what's actually going to be made here. Because
yeah,
like if I as a filmmaker, if I were to do anything, get the rights to anything, it would be a Chainsaw Massacre movie because I have so much love for that franchise. But then
yeah,
watching it, I have to like, okay, well, here's this guy's take on it, and here's how he would do it. And my only thing was I wasn't a fan of how Sally was done. That was like my
Yeah.
biggest criticism was like they just kind of like copy and pasted what Laurie Strode
It,
was.
it's
Halloween 2018.
and then they kill her. It felt really mean spirited. It's like this girl who survived in the original
Yeah,
comes all this time. It's almost like a little bit of the episode 9 Palpatine thing. Like don't dig into my memories and nostalgia and bait that.
exactly. That's like in
You
Halloween
know.
2018, Laurie showing up halfway through and then just getting stabbed in the face.
But Laurie survives in Halloween 2018, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. I'm saying that's what it would be like how they
Oh yeah.
treated
So yeah,
Sally.
yeah. Okay. I was like,
That's how as I imagine if they treated Laurie like that. There would be rioting in the streets.
yeah, and it's
But
like
because
it's
it's
what
it's straight to streaming, and I guess
and you know
Chainsaw Massacre isn't as popular as Halloween.
I would have
No
bought if
one,
Sally had killed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre before her death. Like that's like
me
okay,
too.
she's had, but she didn't. So like her death was her. She died and he's still alive, and it's kind of like oh, you just brought her back to meaninglessly get
Oh,
killed. It just seems kind of I don't know mean spirited towards the lineage of the series. I don't know. You got to treat those characters right.
I agree. And like for me, if I was doing, I wouldn't even had Sally in there. I wouldn't have brought anyone. I mean, yeah,
Same.
I wouldn't have brought Sally in. I would have like let her live her life peacefully. Because in my head canon, she escapes on the truck and lives her whole life fucking traumatized and basically just coping with her life.
I know, and yeah,
And to me,
and
that
now
is
it's
that is the
way
most
better.
tragic ending of all.
Yeah,
Like her becoming some rustled badass sheriff. I was like, what
who gets
is
killed
this?
instantly?
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, good training. What 40 years of training, and then just
I totally
killed
agree with you there,
instantly. I was
man.
like, just let her have her fucking life, man.
Yeah, if
It's
I
like
was
with
to,
it's like with Lori. How did you see Halloween Ends?
yeah, and Halloween
They
Kills,
yeah,
but
I like all of them, and they gave her a good ending. They let her live her life.
I'm glad we brought that up because I don't know if you've noticed the discourse online around Halloween Ends.
Oh,
Like
I noticed it the
people
day
hate this
before it came
movie,
out.
and
I
it's not that bad. I mean, I think Halloween Kills, the middle one, is by far the worst of the trilogy because it's just
right.
so trying to be poetry and it's just like weird and boring and slow and I thought Halloween Ends at least it was something interesting and new with what was his name the Billy character
Yeah,
um
Corey
Corey
Cunningham.
Billy
Yeah, I
Corey same
love
thing
that. I love that, and
same here and you know what the thing people online are always like oh this movie sucks and who's the director Dave Greengrass or something like that
yeah, David Gordon Green.
David Gordon Green, they're like, he shouldn't make movies anymore. I'm like, whoa, you guys got to relax. Like, have you guys watched Halloween 5?
Exactly,
Have you watched
exactly.
H2O? Have you watched Resurrection? Have you watched the Rob Zombie movies? Like, this series is not known for being good.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, let's be honest
I
here.
mean, it's not like someone made a shitty movie in the Godfather franchise. Like this is a slasher movie. You're gonna get some weird shit. You're gonna get some
Yeah.
stinkers. That's part of the industry, man. And I
It's
think
not even
horror
that
fans.
bad. It's not even that
I
bad.
know
It's like,
it's not even that bad, but like horror fans need to realize this is a genre where you take risks and you're allowed to fuck up.
totally. And
You
it's
will.
a genre
There will be
where
a shit movie. If it's
exactly.
your if it's your favorite franchise, guess what? You're getting a shit movie. Whether it's now, whether it's later, whether it's before. Like, again, I'm a big Chainsaw Massacre fan. I was just saying, there's shitty Chainsaw Massacre movies,
Yeah.
and it sucks. It
There's
sucks,
no
but that's how it is.
I don't think there's any horror franchise that's doesn't have a weak link. I'm trying to
Exactly.
think of it now. There really isn't.
Candyman has Candyman 3, which like hardly anyone even talks about because no one really likes it that much.
I didn't even know there
Candyman,
was a Candyman 3.
yeah, there's Candyman 2, Candyman 3, and then there's the Candyman requel. I think there's
I'm
also a Candyman 4, maybe. I don't know.
really trying to think. I really don't think there is a movie series that's gone 3 or more that has had like all three be good.
No,
And I think that's
I
maybe
can't
that's
think,
why
and that's
there's a
fine because
lot
it's
of
it's it's art. You're gonna fuck up if you keep
yeah.
riding a train long enough. You'll fumble a little bit,
But I
and
will say,
that's fine.
have you seen Ty West's X and Pearl?
I love X and Pearl. I prefer Pearl over X personally,
Same,
but
but
I
if
love
Maxine,
both.
if the third one lands, like that's why I have a lot of hyper focus on this trilogy because if that Maxine film lands and it's even just pretty good,
Right?
he's now made the best horror trilogy of all time. It hasn't he?
True. 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 I mean, yeah.
So that's why I'm like, wow, this guy's got a real knack for consistency because he hasn't really made a bad movie. I even like In the House of the Devil, I thought was a really good movie of his.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. After watching, I went and looked up Ty West. I was like, oh, he did this movie that I saw. Oh, did a VHS segment that I really liked. I was okay, so he's a capable director.
Yeah,
I love Ty West.
yeah, X and Pearl to me just cemented. And the funny thing is, I saw X and I was kind of like, oh, it's a competent slasher. Like I'm enjoying it. And then I watched Pearl, and then I had a discussion with someone who's like a mega fan of the movie X and all the themes and the things they found. And I had a discussion with her. And then after I'm like, wow, like X is a much better movie than I really gave it credit for. And I think Pearl adds a lot to that because it re
Exactly.
invigorates the theme and the text of the X. It kind of recontextualizes X entirely.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for Maxine. I'll be there day zero in the
Oh,
theaters.
same. Absolutely same.
We should do a. I'll message you after that day, whenever it comes out.
Yes. Yes, we will chat on that. Because I'm still waiting for it. I saw the trailer for Maxine after I saw Pearl. And I saw the trailer for Pearl after I saw X, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Because I thought it was gonna I doubted it, but I was praying because Pearl came out in September, I think. I was praying we would get Maxine in 2022. And I would be like, Ty West
That all in
is the
one
most
year.
yeah, if Ty West makes the best horror trilogy all in the same year, he is the best fucking dude in the industry right now.
Yeah, but
And
you
he
know what?
still
With
is. He's
the
still
un,
really cool. But I was like, oh my, that'd be such a flex to
the
come
unique
in
thing
and do that.
with Pearl though was that they were on set of X and they
Yeah.
came up with the whole idea and they're like, let's just do the sequel now or prequel because it's the same location, it's the same actor, it's the same crew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think Maxine, they're gonna actually. I think they'll be in. They'll have a little higher budget. They'll be in different locations. So I
Yeah,
think
they're gonna be
that's
like
probably why
in
it took longer.
Hollywood and all that. It's gonna be like a whole thing.
I hope it comes out this year. I don't know if it
Me
will,
too. Me too.
but hopefully, yeah,
Oh, me too. I'm excited for it. And what
same.
were you saying about like David Gordon Green and like how it's like once Halloween Ends came out everyone's like he should never direct. I know he's doing the Exorcist reboot that's
People are
coming
nuts
out.
online, man.
I hate that. There's nothing I hate more than that fucking mentality of oh this person made one bad a movie I did not even a movie I didn't like, so we should never direct again. I see that constantly. I see that
I know,
mindset
same.
constantly. Like Taika Waititi. I don't know if you're a Marvel fan. I mean, I watched Thor: Love and Thunder. The new Thor movie, and it wasn't good. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But everyone's like, never let Taika Waititi direct again. He's a horrible filmmaker. As if
Jojo
as if yeah,
Rabbit
as if you
and
didn't fucking make an Oscar nominated movie like literally 2 years ago.
yeah, What We Do in the Shadows
Yeah,
also
what we do in the
hilarious.
shows, Our Flag Means Death. Yeah, he's a good creator. He's a good artist.
But
He just
I will
he
say
just fumbled a studio movie, and that's fine.
to your point though, I do find myself sometimes in the discourse, like for example,
Right.
JJ Abrams. I would say I don't think he should direct ever again because I think everything he's done is not very good, and I think he's just I think what he did to Star Wars was like just gross. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And
He
even things like Super 8, it's just purely referencing Spielberg, and his Star
yeah.
Trek movies are just boring. And I don't know, I just don't think he's that great. And anything he touches, I'm kind of worried about. And I would also say the same thing about a Patty Jenkins because they gave her all this control on Wonder Woman 1984,
Hmm.
and it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like I don't
Right.
know how anyone with sensibilities put that together because it's so incredibly stupid. And so I when they removed her from, I think they removed her from Wonder Woman
Yeah,
3.
she,
They
she
removed
walked
her
away from
from
it after
and
she wrote a script. There, she was like, "I'm not doing this anymore."
and also she was supposed to make the Rogue Squadron movie.
I saw that.
And I'm a big Rogue Squadron game fan. I've had every Rogue Squadron game. I love Rogue Squadron, the company Factor 5. I love them. They're out of business now. But I was kind of like, oh man, is she going to do some really stupid stuff with this? Because all the stupidity in 1984. Did you watch Wonder Woman 1984?
I did. I saw it on. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on stream because that was back in
Same.
2020 when Warner Brothers did that really weird collaboration, which I'm probably gonna go on a rant about that in a minute. But
Well, I know. I
but
watch it at
yeah,
home too. Same thing. We paid the
I,
$20 to
I
rent it.
I wasn't a big fan of it. Pedro Pascal's cool. I'll say
I just,
that.
yeah,
I like
I would,
Pedro Pascal, but
I'd probably put it on my top 20 or top 10 worst movies of all time list.
it was such a letdown and very
The
very
first
dis.
Wonder Woman was great too. I
I
thought the
love
first,
the first
yeah.
Wonder Woman, and it was like I don't even hate really Patty Jenkins or her work because I saw she did this movie called Monster, like a biopic on Eileen Wuornos.
Okay.
which is a really sick movie. My girlfriend showed it to me, and I was surprised at how much I liked it. And I at the end, I was directed by, I was like, the hell? I was directed by Wonder Woman. Hell yeah.
You know what?
But
I kind of should take back about what I said because
that
you're
was
right
fine.
in
I mean,
that
yeah, it's
people
like,
make bad movies, and it's the truth is when you're writing your script and you're making a movie, like you
mm,
don't know necessarily how it's going to land.
right.
So if she's kind of like she's had more good movies than the one bad movie, I'd say yeah, like let her keep directing
Yeah, I mean, it's
uh,
kind of like a thing with like how
movies.
I have like a thing with like Rob Zombie. Like I like his direction, but his scripts always need work.
Did you watch Monsters? I couldn't even.
I did, and I had actually I didn't hate Monsters. I thought it was just I didn't think it was great, but it was like, oh well, it's Rob Zombie stepping out of his comfort zone, doing something he loves. And I mean, it's fine.
I saw the trailer
It's not
and
Halloween 2 level. Halloween 2 is horrible, but
yeah.
I
But I don't know. I
I
saw the
like
trailer for
Rob.
Monsters. I saw the Monsters trailer, and I'm just like, I don't know. This looks like a TV show from 1996, and I'm like, there's something that looks really bad about this to me, like visually. And
Right.
I just don't think I don't know. But maybe I should give it a try. I'm not a big
I,
Monsters
I,
fan, so
yeah, I mean, I watched a little bit of the show like on deep. I had like DVD sets of it growing up, so I was like, oh,
okay.
this is fun. This is really cute. And I love the set design. He really goes all out on costume. It's like the most
Mhm.
extravagant, like months, like corny, like Transylvanian sets, and I was
He
like,
goes all the
that's
way
so
when he's doing
fun.
something. I gotta get so he's bold in that way, which I can
Yeah, it's
respect.
like he
Yeah.
stands by his work 100%. I love that attitude as a creator.
I'd
Like,
love to see him do something original again, though, because I think
yeah,
his House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, like those movies are sinister as hell,
those are his
and
best movies. Is
I'd
whenever
love
he's
to see
doing something
him.
right out of his own head.
I'd
When
love to see him go back to that. Yeah,
he tries to capture someone else's work, it kind of fumbles a little bit. But whenever he does something straight out of his own head, and it's all him, it's great.
yeah,
You
agreed,
know, I'm not a
agreed.
big fan of how he puts his wife in all of his in like lead roles. I'm not a big fan. Sherry Moon Zombie isn't like my favorite actress
I've
ever.
heard that criticism a lot too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like, but that's his wife. I don't know. I mean,
because I was looking at how I was like, man, I wonder why she's not in the other lead movies besides Rob Zombie movies. I don't know.
yeah. Well,
Because like I don't know, she's not great. But
she's not great.
she has a few good roles. Like I think Baby Firefly in the house. That's good, and I actually didn't mind her as Michael Myers' mother in the Halloween remake.
Yeah,
I was like, struggling mother who's like, you know, she did good at that, you know.
yeah.
I liked the first Halloween remake. I think it's very stylistic. I think it's he did what remakes are supposed to do and do something entirely different. Because if
You
you
know what I think? I think with his remakes is that we've had so many bad remakes since that when you look back, it's like, oh, they really weren't that bad. But at the time, I think they got a lot of worse criticism because you're right. The first Halloween movie has got some interesting stuff in it and some cool
right,
kills. And we actually did a on our channel. We do some of these like fake trailers. I don't know if you saw those, but we did one that was Michael Myers versus the X Files. So it was called X Files Case Michael Myers.
oh,
So
that's
what we do is
cool.
we get a bunch of X Files episodes, we get a bunch of all the Halloween movies, and we kind of mash it as if it's a trailer for a new movie. So
Wow.
I ended up going through every Halloween movie and like trimming all the moments, so I've seen them all like in the back of my brain. Um, but in the first Halloween movie, or sorry, Rob Zombie's first Halloween movie, yeah, it's got a lot of cool visuals. Like I think the cinematography and visuals in that are actually really good. So it's got merit for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I like how I mean, for me, if you're gonna do a remake, you need to do something different.
Mhm.
Like, and I think no remake ever quite goes as far from the original as Rob Zombie's Halloween. I mean that in a good way because in the original Halloween, John Carpenter's, it's it's forming Michael Myers as this non-human entity
Mhm.
that is almost Terminator like, just all
Yep. The
just out.
boogeyman, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a boogeyman, unstoppable, out for
You
blood,
can kill him, he comes
remorseful.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, why is he like that? Oh, I don't know. He just is. He's always been like that. He will always be like that. End of story. Whereas, Rob Zombies, it's it takes a more true crime, realism serial killer
Like a
approach. But
psychologically messed up kid.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
oh, who is this guy? Oh, he had a bad childhood. Oh, he has this fixation on his sister. Oh, he, wears all these different masks. I was like, okay, it felt like more of a true crime thing than a
Yeah.
supernatural boogeyman. Oh, which I like how they did that. I like how they took John Carpenter's thing, they flipped it. It's literally nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
John
You
Carpenter's
you
Michael
know what I
Myers
would
is a
do
force of
if
nature.
someone tasked me with making a Halloween movie? You know what I would do? I would make it like a documentary, like a fake documentary, but it's like you're interviewing people, you're looking at the crime scene, and just do it
Yeah,
deadpan as if it's all real, and it just be like this
I love
weird,
that.
kind of weird.
It,
I don't know.
they kind of dipped their toes in that with Halloween 2018 with like the podcast, like the true crime podcasters.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to be the main characters, and they died like 10 minutes into the movie.
man,
Oh
Halloween
well.
2018, it was great.
Oh, it's great. Yeah,
I
I was
loved
just
him,
shocked.
man.
Oh, I love these characters. I was like, oh, never mind, they're dead.
It's just good classic slasher. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
absolutely, yeah.
It didn't try to reinvent anything. It just said, no, we're going to take what you love about slashers and we're going to make it really good and effective and well paced. And I loved it.
There's this one scene in 2018 I love so much. It's this one take of Michael walking down the sidewalk, bumping. It doesn't cut off, bumping into someone. Camera pans
I
down,
remember that
pans
shot.
back up,
Yeah.
turns, walks down into someone's backyard, walks into a shed, turns around, walks into the house. I was like, this is
Yeah.
nuts.
I gotta
Blocking
say,
and camera work.
ultimately, I feel like Halloween 2018 shouldn't have been a trilogy. It should have just been its own thing because the ending of it to me was pretty satisfying conclusion. Like she kills Michael in the basement, she
Yeah,
burns him up, she saves her family. Like I was satisfied. So I don't know if they needed to reopen that and him escaping and killing all the firefighters. Like I don't know. I don't know. Some things are better just left, I think.
absolutely. Even though I do like
Yeah.
the opening, I love the opening of Kills, but I do agree that
Halloween
like,
Kills got some cool, stylish moments. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. I just felt
no, yeah.
as a whole, it just kind of did nothing for me. And that whole bit where the town was fighting him at the end was like, it's so. I just cringe in my soul for that scene. So
I was watching. I was like, man, they're really getting some hits in. I was like, can't wait to see how Michael recovers from this. And then in two
kill,
minutes, I was like, yeah, there he
kills
goes.
everyone.
I was like, no way, this is working.
Yeah.
I was like, it looks cool, and I'm glad that the town's getting some kicks in, but no fucking way, this is working out for
No. Well, it kind of does.
him. Sure, and I like I said, Halloween ends. It does some cool stuff. It's unique.
Yeah.
It's not. It's one of the things. It's not how I would do it, but it's unique, and that's the great thing about art is that everyone has their own like way of doing it. And I looked up the behind
Totally.
the scenes of like how they wrote it, and they're like, "Well, we wanted to do something no one's ever done with Halloween, so we made it a love story." And I was
Yeah.
like, "That's what? That's as good a reason as any. Just do some weird shit." That's why I love the horror genre because that's where like this shit can kind of fly.
I feel like the horror genre is the genre that has the most exploration
It
left.
is, yeah, because you can do anything with it. Like
Yeah.
you can't take a movie like Top Gun Maverick and then make it like I don't know where I was going with that.
I mean, I love Top Gun
Oh,
Maverick.
me
I
too.
love
I'm saying like you can't like blend too many genres
it.
with
Totally.
with action movies and romance movies, but with horror, it's like one of the most dynamic,
Totally.
genres ever.
You can really play with the structure of
You could do
films where I
whatever
feel
you
like
want.
with blockbusters or action films, you can't really screw the structure up too much. People expect kind of this pacing of like climaxing up for action scenes, but horror you can do really weird things like there's that movie that came out a few years ago called They Come at Night. I don't know if
Right.
you saw this one. I know it pissed a lot of people off because the name and the marketing implies that something comes at night, which it doesn't. But I just love the movie because it's such a different take on the genre and how almost nothing really happens, but it's that seeping dread.
Right.
So I love, and I don't know if you saw the recent film called Speak No Evil.
Mm. I
It's
don't
a
think I've seen that one. I've heard of it
Dutch
though.
horror, but they speak English. But it's just like it's just alternate takes on social commentary horror, right? Of just like the
Right.
awkwardness of meeting people, and really, I just think that horror has so much more left in the tank as far
Yeah.
as ways to explore it. Um,
Absolutely, because there's so many subgenres, and even within those subgenres, you could mix subgenres. Yeah, it's a horror movie. Oh, what is it?
found footage, this, found
Yeah,
footage, this, found
it's a
footage, this.
slasher
Yeah,
found footage. It's an exploitation romance. It's you can cross so you can make like horror is a melting pot of ideas and themes, and you can do whatever you want with it, and there will be someone out there who enjoys it.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
there's that new movie that came out with Timothée Chalamet where he's a cannibal. What's it called?
bones and all.
Bones and all. I gotta say I didn't love it, but I
Right.
like that they took non-horror and brought genre, like the horror genre into that. I guess coming of age, emotional drama. So even horror being infused into other genres, I think, is really cool and interesting. And there's lots to go there for sure.
Yeah, like I liked Bones and all for just being like just a ballsy, weird, like romance horror. I was like, I was watching with my girlfriend. I was like, what the hell am I watching? Well, I saw the Fantastic Fest before that, and I even then I was like, what the hell am I watching? And the second time didn't get any better. I was like, what the hell am I watching here? And I love stuff like that where it makes you think. That's how it was with X. You know, you see this old woman, you know, having sex with her husband and then going out and killing people. I was like, what?
Yeah,
What is going on here?
I
And
love
I
that
love
though.
that. I
Yeah.
love that moment in theater where you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Did
I
you
love
watch
that.
Barbarian?
I did. And that was another movie where I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is going
When she was
and
milking, when she was like breastfeeding, was she breastfeeding one of the characters? I can't remember, but it was like I was just like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, but I'm in. I'm here
yeah,
for it.
I have no idea what's going on, but I'm glad I'm here and I'm glad I'm watching it. And I'm glad other people are here watching it too.
I
I
really
was
liked Barbarian a lot. I
yeah.
thought it was really good.
If you went back 5 years, a movie like Barbarian would not be a success.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
But
know.
now
It's
it made back some money. It made some
yeah,
money.
and it's funny when I watched it. I'm like, this could have been called a Resident Evil movie, and this is like this almost like the best Resident Evil movie that never was. Not
Yeah.
like not the typical Raccoon City Resident Evil, more like the Resident Evil 7
Yeah,
style.
the biohack, yeah, stuff like
Yeah,
that. I
and
was like, this is so weird.
are you a Resident Evil fan, by the way? Do you like the games?
Yeah, I've played a few of them. I'm always too
Okay,
scared to finish them. That's like one
I'm
hard.
a big fan. They got the number 4 remake coming out
Yes.
at the end of March. I'm really stoked about that, man.
Same with Silent Hill. I did get a PS5,
Silent Hill 2
I can
remake.
play. Yeah, I can play the Silent Hill 2 remake. I was like, well, now I have a reason to get a PS5.
But the one thing I will say about the Silent Hill 2 remake, just to maybe pump some brakes on your excitement, it's being made by a developer that's not quite as talented as the Capcom developers.
Right.
And also, I don't think it's going to come out this year because they haven't really, they just haven't shown a lot. I feel like that's going to be a next year game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I gotta
With a
say,
game like that, they're gonna have to take some time on it.
that's the day probably that I need to buy a PS5.
Yeah. Same with like they're doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game, which I
I
love so
know.
much. I love the people over at Gun Studios.
I really liked the
They're committed.
Friday the 13th game. It's the same
Same,
studio, right?
yeah, it's Gun, and I love how they do that. And I feel bad for Gun because you know with the Friday the 13th legal conundrum, they kind of had to pull the plug on the game. Like legally, they couldn't update it, they couldn't keep adding
Oh
stuff
yeah,
to
I
it.
heard
So
about
the
this.
game kind of flatlined a little bit and lost. I tried playing it like a few months ago, and it's just no one is on it. Really
The
hardly
Friday the
anyone's on
13th
it
has
anymore.
always been weird with rights, hasn't it? Like because it's Brendan
Yeah,
Cunningham made it, and there was some sort of weird legal issues with it. I believe I've read, right?
yeah, because it's between the director of the Friday the 13th movie
Which
and
is
the
Brendan
writer of it.
Cunningham, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm not entirely. I'm not entirely familiar.
Hmm.
I don't want to, get wrong information out there.
Yeah,
But I
I
know
can't remember.
it's been in a court battle, but I think they've recently reached some sort of um they've recently reached some sort of agreement to it, from my understanding.
It's Sean Cunningham's, right? I was saying Brendan Cunningham. It's
Sean
Sean
Cunningham,
Cunningham.
who I believe directed
Um,
the first one.
yeah, and then the production company Paramount. I mean, it's one of those
Yeah,
kind of stuck in
whereas
legal
it's like
limbo.
oh, we own the rights to Jason. His wife created the character Jason.
And that's a similar
Um,
thing with Mancini and Chucky, and
yeah,
well, he owns the character Chucky, but I believe that it's the studio that owns Child's Play, and that's why when he
yeah,
makes stuff, it's called Chucky, Curse of Chucky, Cult of
yeah,
Chucky,
exactly.
and
He's
they're like, well, we'll just call it
branched
Child's
off.
Play, and I
Yeah,
really liked, by the way, I really liked was it Curse of Chucky? The reboot for Child's Play
yes,
was really good. I Cult of Chucky, not as good, but Curse of Chucky
yeah.
was I thought it was excellent.
Oh, absolutely. And I like how you can kind of go back and pinpoint when requels started getting popular. Because
Yeah.
like I said, there was that Chainsaw Massacre requel back in 2013, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like one of the first prequels. And then
Yeah.
you also had The Town That Dreaded Sundown in 2014, which played off the original. Maybe that's a requel. And then you flash
Hmm.
forward a little bit, then you got, you have the requel, you have the Child's Play requel back in well, no, that's a
Well,
reboot,
we
not a
got we
requel.
got
My bad. We have the
you know,
show,
Friday the
and
13th had a
Curse of
requel in
Chucky.
2009.
Yeah.
Poltergeist, Pet Cemetery, all those. Um,
Oh yeah.
I really didn't like the Poltergeist. The original Poltergeist is one of my favorite movies ever. I really, really disliked the remake. Sam Rockwell, that has to be one of the biggest miscasts ever.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
I wasn't big on it. I have this one very distinct memory where I saw it in theaters with my sister, and there's a scene where like they're digging through like a tree or like an attic or whatever, and like a squirrel pops up, and I remember my sister screaming loud as hell at the squirrel jump. That's
that's
my one
fun.
memory of the movie. It's just the squirrel jump
Cheap
scare.
jump scares, they're fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my sister screaming like the loudest in the theater at the damn squirrel. I never seen that movie. At the clown, all
That's hilarious.
the fucking squirrels what got her. I
That's like
find
the
that
movie.
hilarious.
That movie Smile. I don't know if you saw Smile. Had lots of jump scares.
I love Smile. I
Yeah.
love Smile, and I will scream it from the rooftops. And here's the thing, I expected that movie to suck.
Same. The trailer, I was like, ugh.
That movie gave off big truth or dare energy,
Yeah. Yeah.
big,
Or Panic or
and
Escape Room. That movie
yeah, and
Escape Room.
every
Yeah.
time I saw the trailer, I would be like, "Oh my god, this! Oh my god, this is not going to be
Yeah.
good." And then I saw the Fantastic
Um,
Fest, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is great!" Like from
it's
like one of
great.
the first few moments, I was like, "Let's do it."
I think it's probably has some of the most effective use of jump scares of any movie ever. Like that
Absolutely,
director just mastered how to do jump scares. Like I
yeah,
was
because
like constantly jumping, and people in the theater were screaming.
absolutely, and like the biggest thing about jump scares is that people forget it's not the scare that matters; it's the build up to it. You
Absolutely.
can't just pull a jump scare like that. You gotta build up to it with
Yeah. And
sound design and
yeah.
camera work
And
and
there's the most
characters.
effective one I remember from Smile was when she was on her computer and she's trying to like turn up the audio. You know what I mean? She's looking at the waveform on her editing software, or whatever, and she's
Yeah,
like bringing the audio up, and she's like bringing it up a little more and listening, and it's like getting closer and closer to the screen, and she's bringing it up, and you as the audience like, okay, are we gonna hear something? Are we gonna hear something? And no, there's nothing there. It's just so that they had this thing jump scare you, and I was like, that was so effective, and
exactly.
but I
I
love
love it.
how there was nothing in the audio. It was just a red herring, a misdirect.
For sure. Even
So effective.
you as a viewer, like kind of leaning in your ear, you're like, what's that? What's that? I
Totally.
love that. I love that.
And there's
And
that famous jump scare from Exorcist 3. I don't know if you've seen that one. The famous people say it's the best jump scare ever.
right.
If you know what I'm talking about after this, maybe just go on YouTube and look up like the Exorcist 3 jump scare because just the clip alone will get you.
I gotta look that up.
It's really it just works. I don't know why. It's just the way it's framed. You're just not expecting what you get, and it's just this misdirection. Yeah, check it out.
No, yeah, absolutely. And like, oh my, there's this one scene in Smile that I love. It's where she thinks someone broke into the house or whatever, and she calls the security company, and it's like, oh, are you alone in the house? It's like, yeah. Are you sure? I was like, I love that. I was like, that immediately sent chills down my spine. And then
Yeah,
it's like, are you sure you didn't let something in? And there's a brief pause that says, look behind you. I'm like, oh, Jesus
yeah,
Christ. Like
yeah,
my hairs were standing up at that scene. And then it was all a fake. The whole thing
yeah.
happened again. And I love that happens like multiple times in the movie. I love that.
Yeah,
Smile was
misdirects,
great.
red herrings. That's where it's at.
Smile was amazing. I got it on Blu-ray and everything, which
Oh wow.
I haven't been buying many Blu-rays. Like, I need to get back on that, but
Do you buy the UH? Do you buy the 4K Blu-ray or the 1080 Blu-ray?
I think just the 1080, whatever was at Walmart.
Okay, that's the thing with Blu-ray.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm kind now there's not the UHD Blu-rays coming out, so I'm like, oh geez, but you need a new Blu-ray player.
yeah. I play all my Blu-rays on a PS4, so I don't really buy like the 4K Ultra HD.
Mm.
I need a new setup for that. I'd like upgrade for that.
You know what's funny? I just maybe this is a digression, but I bought a Xbox, the new Xbox Series X, and it's supposed to have a UHD Blu-ray player built in. That's what they
Mhm.
tout. So I went out and I bought Mad Max Fury Road on 4K Blu-ray because I'm like, okay, I've never watched a 4K Blu-ray before.
Right.
Well, it doesn't work. The system can't handle it. And then I went online and read up, and everyone is like, no, the UHD Blu-ray players in the PS5 and the new Xbox are like subpar,
Yeah.
and you need to buy a dedicated player. So I'm probably gonna get one eventually because best way to watch movies, right?
No, absolutely. And I remember for the like 40th anniversary of Halloween, I bought like a 4K of of Halloween 1, and
Nice.
I watched like the Blu-ray disc of it because I don't think I have like a 4K or like a 4K player, like Ultra HD player. But even
Mm.
then, it still looked good.
Yeah, and it's kind of with those older movies. It's like, well, like you're
Yeah,
just rescanning the film. It's like, is it really going to be that different? And I mean, a little sharper, I guess, but
yeah, right. No, yeah, it's one of those like you gotta watch like newer stuff with it because
yeah,
like I said, with the older movies, there's only so much you could fix.
yeah,
With like, all these movies shot in IMAX, there's like you can elevate it so well.
totally.
You know, I mean,
Did you watch the movie Skinamarink?
okay. Thank you for bringing that up. I was gonna ask you that.
Okay,
Yes, I did watch it.
same. I've watched it too. What do
I
you
loved
think?
it.
I want you loved it.
I
Okay.
loved it. Okay. I know it's like a hot take right now, which like I understand why people don't like it.
I don't know if it's a
I'll
hot take. There's a lot. It's a lot of. It's very divisive.
I'll preface with that.
Um,
I know why people don't like it. Like I even while I was watching, I was like, there are people who will fucking hate this movie,
for
and that's
sure.
perfectly reasonable
It's
because I
let me
get
put it let me put
why
it this
people
way.
hate it.
It's very rare that I will not pause a movie when I get up to go to the bathroom. And with Skinamarink, I absolutely was not going to pause it because I mean, yeah. So my opinion, I don't know. I'm very mixed about it because
Right.
on one hand, some of the moments in this movie are so incredibly effective.
Yes.
Um, then again, I have to say the trailer. When I watched the trailer online, I got more chills from the trailer than I did from the entire movie. Because
Right.
the I don't know something about the notion of the idea of the trailer. When I watched the movie, some of the effect was a little bit lost on me with some of the production values.
Mhm.
And I also felt that, I mean, even though some of those parts are super effective, I did feel like it was almost like a 15-minute short film that's been padded.
Yeah.
um, and I almost feel like there's a really great 15 or 20-minute short film there, like really great.
But it's
But
funny that you say that because the director actually did make a short film, kind of like a proof of concept of Skinamarink. It's like a 28-minute short film called Heck. So
okay.
I usually go watch that. If you think Cinema Little Better is a short film, you should totally check that out
Okay, I will. I mean, at
because
the
I
same
love that.
time,
It's just as effective as Skinamarink, and it has
I,
like a different storyline a little bit, but it follows the same elements.
I guess
Um,
the one thing I will say about Skinamarink that I liked a lot though is I felt it really inspiring because
yeah,
I think it's for when he's Canadian and I'm Canadian and a lot of Canadian films don't really get noticed.
color ball.
I'm American too. I'm a dual, by the way. But anyways, the other thing was that I think with a lot of lo-fi horror, like lo-fi has almost become its own subgenre in a way. It's
Yeah,
lo-fi.
it's very new
But
as well.
but my problem is that a lot of lo-fi either goes in the direction of found footage, or lo-fi goes in the direction of, hey, we're a cheesy B movie with stupid jokes.
Right,
And I like that he took the lo-fi approach and used it to effectively make the movie more terrifying. And he used it so effectively that I'm like, no,
right,
I'm of the opinion like I like comedy horror and I like zany comedy horror, but I think I like horror to be serious too. And
right.
I think that that's what's some of the renaissance of new horror we're seeing with Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, even Ty West a little bit, is that
Mhm.
they're taking the genre. Ty West is probably not a good example of this, but the Ari Aster and these guys are taking the genre seriously. And they're not making tongue in cheek jump scares, haha, killer, monsters, aliens,
Right. They take it as a very
boobs.
serious genre.
They're like, let's take this serious. Let's make actually subtext and themes as serious and deep as a Hollywood Oscar movie. Like
Yeah.
let's make our performances like Tony Collette in Hereditary is one of the best
Snubbed.
performances
Snubbed at the
total
Oscars.
snub. So was Mia Goth with
Absolutely.
Pearl. But
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I made a tweet about that where I was like, I actually wasn't that mad at the Oscars this year, but and you know they
Neither was
missed
I. I thought
they missed me a goth, so that's an automatic L. But that's
Totally. But you know what? The moment I left the theaters of Pearl, I said that's the best
the
performance I've maybe seen. That's the top 10 best performances I've ever seen from a female actor. And I was like, this is
Oscars aren't gonna notice it.
they're gonna totally snub her,
Yep.
and I'm already mentally prepared for that disappointment.
Yep. Had the same thought when I
Um,
watched it. I was like, that was a great movie. The Oscars are gonna hate it, and I'm gonna be mad about it. But
and it's
we'll
just
cross that bridge when we get there.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the weird thing with the Oscars is that it's just like you need to have the money and clout to kind of get your movie
right.
seen, and I actually just think it's a matter of simply those people just never saw the movie Pearl. They just never saw
Exactly.
it.
Because with the Oscar committee, you have to tell them to watch a movie.
What's it called? It's not
The
the
company
word.
has to give them the movie and say,
Yeah,
watch
I
it.
know I don't want to use the word pandering, but you have to kind of yeah, you have to like
Yeah.
promote it
No,
as
absolutely.
a
Well,
award
yeah, yeah,
winner.
yeah, yeah. And that I read a very interesting, you know, thread about that. And they're like, well, I think one of the reasons why, besides being a horror movie, Pearl didn't get nominated is because A24 only wanted to invest enough money
Into
to get
everything.
to get one movie nominated, and they're like, well, which one has the best chance of being nominated? Low budget horror movie or crazy
Or
artistic?
100 million critical darling, everything
And
everywhere all
it's
at once.
like, and I'm not saying everything all at once is like some big Oscar bait movie because it's not.
It's not.
It's very abstract and very artsy and a big step forward for Oscars, because you have like, female
I mean,
lead,
and it's low
yeah,
budget, right? Too.
low
It's
budget
five
and
million, $10 million budget. It's
yeah,
got, you're right,
and
an Asian female
yeah,
lead.
yeah, LGBT
Um,
themes, it's got all this stuff that usually wouldn't contend for an Oscar.
I
And
think,
that's
by
what
the way,
makes it so surprising.
side note, I think everything all at once will sweep.
It will. You're absolutely right. It
It's
absolutely
the
will.
underdog darling of the year. It's the winning
Yes.
story. It's the smile story. And as much as I loved The Fablemans and I loved a lot of the other movies and Top Gun and
Right.
I loved Avatar too. Um,
I like Avatar. Yeah.
it's just not their time.
Yeah, absolutely. Which like
Yeah,
I was surprised that well, I was surprised that I don't think James Cameron got like a Best Director nomination. I was watching the nominations like live on TV. I didn't see James Cameron get nominated for Best
he didn't
Director.
get. I think the only thing Avatar
Spielberg
got
got it,
was
but not
was I
Cameron.
think they got nominated for Best Picture and they got nominated for Best VFX, maybe
Yes.
sound editing or something. But
Which I
I
was
loved
surprised with that.
Avatar.
Oh yeah, Avatar was great.
I'm a big visual guy, so I'm obviously going into it being like I'm here for the visuals and the visual. I saw it twice, man. It blew me away.
Right.
I went to my mom and I said, "Mom, you got to see this." And she's like, "I don't watch
Mhm.
those kind of movies. I didn't watch Avatar 1." I said, "It doesn't matter.
I mean, to
Just
tell you
spend
the truth,
the take my word for it. Watch 3 hours. It's incredible."
yeah. And to tell you the truth, I didn't watch the first Avatar until the night before I saw Avatar 2.
No kidding.
So
That's interesting.
I was like, well, I'm gonna, try to catch up on this 13-year-old movie. Um, I thought Avatar 1 was okay. I was like, yeah, the visuals are, good. I'm sure if I saw this in 2009 with 3D glasses on an IMAX screen, I would have been shitting my pants loving it.
But
But
the thing too,
nowadays I was like, it was just okay, but I liked it.
watching Avatar 1 in 2009, the graphics were so far ahead of time that I don't even think, Quantum Mania, Garbly Goop CG mess doesn't even hold up to Avatar 1, probably. So
No, it
it's
doesn't.
like, that's what I loved about Avatar 2. And I'm like, wow, I'm seeing graphics that'll be 15 years from now.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah,
I'm seeing
no,
this
yeah.
future. I really like that. I mean, I'm
10,
a big
15 years
graphics
from
guy.
now, people will still be liking Avatar. People will still be, oh, look at Avatar Way of Water. Look at the water effects. Look at
I
the,
think so.
whale and all that. Like
And
the whales from that movie.
maybe in 80 years, when those graphics aren't impressive anymore, people will look back and be like, whatever. I mean, it was a staple at the time, but it's not really that impressive now. But whatever. I liked it.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh well, look what James Cameron did with this technology, and then in 80 years they're gonna be like, well, we're gonna do this technology and do this, and I like
Yeah.
that.
But
It's
I
kind
mean,
of
and back to
how
what we were saying, I really think horror is lacking. Like they really don't recognize it in these award shows. It's too
absolutely like the last. I always complain about this. I always bring this up. I said they always move. They always change the genre. When they do nominate a horror film, like before, I think the last horror film to be nominated for an Oscar, it's
Silence
quite
of the
and
Lambs, right?
it was Get Out for best screenplay, and it was a thriller. It's not a horror; it's a thriller. Get Out is a possession
Yeah, right.
movie. It's a mind control horror
It's
movie.
a horror.
Absolutely. And then before that, it was Silence of the Lambs. Oh, but that's not a horror movie. That's a crime. That's a
It's a crime
crime.
thriller.
That's a
Yeah.
crime drama. That's a crime
And then, I
thriller.
mean, I could be
It's not a
wrong,
horror
but
movie.
before
It is
before
a horror
that,
movie.
I think it's all the way. And Silence of the Lambs won, I think, Best Picture, didn't it? And I believe
Yeah,
before that, it was The Exorcist
yeah.
in
Which is like
1973.
The Exorcist is the only movie that that they would call a horror movie that won
I
or even got nominated.
sometimes I wish I was alive to have seen Exorcist in theaters just
Oh,
to see.
same.
Oh my God, how fucked up that would have made
Yeah.
you.
Well, because
Like,
I always regret that I didn't see it because I didn't see The Exorcist till I was like 15.
okay,
And so it was kind of like, yeah,
it still messes with you though, probably,
oh
right?
yeah, I was like visually this is great, and I'm loving the acting and the effects and the performances. But I was like, when I was like 15, 16, I was like, oh, well, I'm not, having trouble sleeping at night. But if I saw this back when I was so mad no one showed it to me when I was younger. And if I saw this when I was younger, it would be traumatizing. And like I said, if I saw it back in 1973, yeah,
What,
I
by the
would
way,
be
what
losing it.
year were you born? Just curious.
2001.
Oh my God, so you're like 22.
Yeah, just turned 22. Yeah,
Okay, I'm from 87.
right,
So when I was young, like when I was like, 9, 10, 11, people would always put The Exorcist on at Halloween parties.
right.
And because we didn't, now we're living in this multimedia everywhere world, but back then it was like we didn't, we still held on to those scary movies from 20 years ago.
Oh,
And it
absolutely.
was so I remember just being really, really horrified by that movie as a kid.
Yeah.
Really, really disturbing. I almost think it's still maybe the scariest movie ever. Um,
Well, I mean, I can definitely see the perspective on that, and like, it's a good movie. It's really well made.
I think the thing that really, and I've heard this take online, is that the reason it's so effective is that if you watch it, it's not. It again takes it very seriously. It doesn't make it schlocky. And
Yeah,
it's also the first like hour and 10 minutes of the movie is like very serious medical issue with this girl, and they take it so seriously. She's going for MRI, she's peeing on the carpet, so it's not doing anything that creepy yet. Where the
yeah,
traditional horror movie needs this kind of like, oh, first act scare, second act scene, where this movie's like, no, we're gonna really slowly creep you in. It's really about the first chunk of this movie is really about this daughter having these medical issues, and it's like so creepily realistic that when it goes full hand by the end, you're like, oh my God, like you're fully in.
yeah. It's a gradual buildup. Like you're learning with the characters just how severe this is.
Totally.
I love when
Yeah.
movies do that. I love when you're along, like the characters are the same as the audience.
Yeah.
You're learning with them.
Yeah.
You're discovering with them. I love when movies do that right at the ground level of the script, where it's like this happens, and then we're building up to it. It's a
Totally.
snowball effect. Oh, this little girl is having some medical problems, and then by the end, by the time of Act 3, she's flailing around on a bed, vomiting, her head's doing
Yeah.
360s, and a priest is jumping out the window, killing himself.
Yeah. And
I love the build up.
it's just not done in a schlocky horror way where it's like, oh,
No,
hey,
yeah,
here's the monster, here's the scare, here's the
no,
gore, the
yeah,
knife going in. It's like, no, we're gonna do this in a very kind of
mature,
like
serious way.
mature
Yeah,
way. And
yeah,
that's something that I mean, obviously you've seen the YouTube channel. Like not all of our shorts are super serious. Like some are a
right.
little schlockier, but I really think if I make feature horror films, I'll be going that kind of hard line of serious, straight faced, not
Absolutely.
schlocky, not campy, not fun, not B movie. Like really trying to
Hmm.
do it something that's truly horrifying. I mean, like at least
Oh.
that's what I like.
Which you mentioned Robert Eggers earlier. I love Robert Eggers. He's
Love.
one of my favorite modern screenwriters and directors, and specifically screenwriters, because he has so much attention to detail
He
in
comes from the
his
art
in his
department, so
dialogue and
his
scripts.
the look and the dialogue is so authentic.
Yeah, I mean, I watched The Lighthouse and
Loved.
I was blown away. And I learned what he had done. He actually got lighthouse keeper book logs from the 1860s to the 1890s and all that, and would cross reference them while writing his script. So some of the words in there were actually spoken by lighthouse keepers, and the language is authentic to that time period and that location. And
And
I love that. That is
they used the
that's the
lens
detail
they
we
used
need.
as like some sort of like they used the aspect ratio and lens of like really old films from that period.
Yeah, yeah, like Nosferatu stuff and just
The thing I
shit
love
like
about
that.
Robert Eggers is that he's doing these kind of period piece films that
Yes.
are so authentic, but they also don't feel like period piece films because he's got like a more of a modern sensibility with the editing and the scares.
Absolutely.
So I'm feeling I'm watching this really authentic period piece, but I'm not watching like Shakespeare in Love and being bored to death.
Yeah, because
It's paced well.
yeah, I mean, one thing about me, I don't like period pieces. I don't really ever watch them. I don't really
Me
watch ever
neither.
period
Yeah.
pieces ever. But Robert Eggers, I'm there day one for every Robert Eggers movie.
Did you watch Northman then?
Yeah. Oh, I got
Oh,
my school
awesome.
actually got we got a free early screening of The Northman like a week before it came out. Like
Awesome.
Focus Features came to our school and like showed us the movie. And I have a friend who's like super into like Nordic history and Viking culture from that era, and he was
I
loving it,
feel
and
like
I
the
was
Northman
loving it.
got I feel like it got really overlooked.
I was so shocked. Not one Oscar nomination
I
for that
know.
movie. I was bummed at
And
that.
it didn't do that well in box office. Like it's, I
No,
mean,
it
I think
didn't.
Robert Eggers, his movies are such critical darlings, and they're such amazing films. Like he'll keep making movies, but he hasn't really had a commercial success. I mean, The Witch, I
Right.
guess, did well for its budget, but he's not a mainstream director in any sense. Like I think Smile probably made more money than his whole career will make,
Right.
but he's making these movies that are just so
He's making
enriching,
them for
right?
him. Right. He's making them for him. And that's
Yeah,
what I love is that
and
these
people
are.
like us,
Oh,
fans.
right.
Yeah,
He loves it, and I remember there was like some. He said he didn't want to work on a big studio movie like The Northman again because apparently they did block some of his more creative
I
aspects that
can
were
believe
there in The
that.
Lighthouse and The Witch, which I absolutely believe because they wanted The Northman to be a box office success. They wanted Northman to be a big Hollywood action piece just set in Viking times, where the lighthouse and the village, I'm sorry, the lighthouse and the witch, not the village, the witch were like very small, contained,
Yes.
claustrophobic horror pieces. They were
I,
almost like short horror stories,
yeah.
stretched out to
I mean, I guess
2 hours.
Northman's almost not a horror at all.
No, it's not. It's action and period
But
piece, but
it's
it's
weird.
got some
It's
dark themes.
in a different time period. I feel like Northman could have been a Best Picture nominated movie, and it's kind of like
Absolutely.
not really horror, but there was that movie a few years ago called The Duel by Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Like really good movie, and it just kind of like it just shows how the landscape of cinema has changed. Where like we don't really accept those kind of movies anymore as like
Hmm.
adult period piece
Oh yeah.
dramas
And
as Oscar movies. It's weird.
even if you go back like further to like movies like Gladiator, you
Huge
know,
box office, win a bunch of
and
awards. Yeah,
on another in another universe, like you said, dude, Northman could be the next Gladiator,
totally. So it's I
where
think
it's
it's just
like you
the
said, adult
tastes of
like mature adult period pieces that don't bore you.
I think it's just the flavor of the time a little bit too.
Yeah,
But I meant you mentioned earlier Get Out, so I did want to talk about if you had seen Nope.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too because I mentioned IMAX earlier, and then Nope was shot with like IMAX cameras and
Yeah,
all that. I loved Nope. I
I
loved it.
love Nope. I think it's my favorite Jordan Peele film.
It's better on rewatch.
I
I
haven't rewatched it yet.
every time I rewatch it, I like it a little bit more because the first time I watched it, I couldn't help but have an ever so slight feeling of disappointment
Hmm.
because of how the trailers were edited. The trailers marketed it
Yes.
as a very invasion of the third kind style type movie, but with Jordan Peele's writing.
Yep.
Um, and then when we watched it, it was, I mean, obviously not that.
Totally. It's almost like
I
a
was expecting,
Western.
yeah, I was expecting like gray aliens with big eyes, going after people and creeping people out. It wasn't that at all. And I remember someone,
I gotta say I skip the trailers. I try to avoid as many trailers as I can. So
oh, me too.
I
I
went
do
into
that
Nope
now.
blind. And so I had zero expectations, and I'm just like, I'm in for whatever you give me here.
Right.
And I guess the thing with Nope, and I know I've seen this kind of discussion online too, but it's like I think a lot of there's like expectations we go into films with, and I love
Right.
that Nope kind of took any expectation I could have, even with the first half of the movie, the expectations I was building, and it challenged those expectations. And by the end, I'm like, this is something I would have never expected it to kind of be this like taming an alien, almost like a Western, but it's like got
Yeah,
some thriller,
absolutely.
and it's almost like he's taming it like he's taming a wild horse and he's figuring it out. And I
Yes.
really love the ties to animals and just such a unique movie. But I think, I mean, I talk about this all the time, how I think with maybe moviegoers like you and me who are more avid,
Hmm.
We are more used to, and we actually are open to our expectations being challenged and knocked
Yes,
down. Where I think a lot
absolutely.
of the common moviegoers, like the kind of people online who hated Halloween Ends, we're going to get trolled for that. But they went in with very succinct expectations, and if they didn't get their expectations, they're mad. Like
Right,
it's like this weird kind of like I don't know. I think there's this weird divide between people who are like, well, I can set my expectations aside. I want to be challenged, and other people are like, no, I'm going to the movie to match my expectations.
right.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I go into the movies now. I go in with like expectations, no matter what.
It's hard
But
not to.
I go in knowing I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
By the time I walk through the door and buy the ticket, I know I'm probably going to be wrong.
You know
Like with Skinnamarink, I had all these
yeah
ideas, and I was like, I'm probably going to be wrong. With Nope,
yeah.
I had all these ideas, and by the end, I was like, yep, I was wrong. With
I
Barbarian,
mean,
I didn't watch the trailer for
yeah,
Barbarian.
me neither.
But I
Me
walked in, I
neither.
was like, whatever I think is going to happen, is probably not going to happen.
I love that about the movie. It's so surprising. But
I love
I
it.
think
I wouldn't have it any other way.
the better movie experiences for me is when it doesn't meet my expectations, where it challenges my expectations or does something different. That's like the more satisfying. When I go to a movie and it's like, okay, it matched my expectations perfectly. Like I'm trying to think of an example, like the movie Logan, which is what I would say is one of the better comic book films.
Hmm.
I like it, but I went into it and it was exactly what I expected for the whole movie. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, it matched my expectations and it was good and competent, but it didn't challenge me in a way that I mean, that's probably a bad example, but
No, but you're right though. Is that like it kind of it's like it's good, but also it's like oh well, you kind of got there's no thrill there if
it
you
did what it marketed that it said it
yeah
would
if
do.
you know exactly
Yeah.
what you're getting and you get it. It's kind of like there's no element of surprise. There's no kind of thrill chase there. There's no
Yeah.
questioning. There's no discussion. I don't know if it's discussing the movie afterwards.
Yeah.
That's what makes Skinamarink so fun. And I saw it with my girlfriend, and I showed my family Skinamarink, and
Did
I
they
would be
like it?
my girlfriend liked it. My family was not a big fan because they're more comic
I mean,
movie. I got my
you really have to commit.
absolutely, and like I remember I was talking to my dad about it, and I was like, well, it's micro budget. It was only $15,000. My dad was like, what the hell did they spend $15,000 on in that movie? Like it was
Honestly,
just one house, and I was
I'm
like.
all,
I don't know, but I mean, hey, it's $15,000 that like someone used to make their dream movie, and I like that, so I don't care.
I'm almost inclined a little bit to agree, but costs, right? He could have paid an editor to work for three
Oh,
weeks, a sound
I'm
designer for
sure.
3 weeks. He could have
Oh yeah,
rented
I'm
their
sure it
camera,
probably
paid
was.
the actors. I'm sure there was
Yeah.
cost that,
Oh, I'm sure.
food, feed the
Yeah,
crew.
absolutely. And
But yeah,
that's
I gotta say that movie is as much as I'm maybe at odds with. I'm not gonna say I loved it. I loved aspects of it, but I just
mhm,
find it inspiring. Is the big one? Is like, wow, there is a space for lo-fi scary horror. Not every
absolutely.
lo-fi movie needs to be schlocky B-roll, homage to
Oh,
grindhouse nonsense. Like we can have scary, modern, original lo-fi, and
yeah.
I think
And like
it's so inspiring.
I don't know if you're like into like the analog horror stuff you see all over the internet these days, like
Love, and you know what's funny? You know what?
like Mandela catalog stuff and all that. What is
So
that?
I got this recently, uh,
Oh, that's sick.
and it works perfectly. I have a way to capture off of it with no tape. So for anyone listening to the podcast, I'm holding up a Panasonic like VCR camera, and dude, it's awesome. It's
That's
so
sick.
awesome. And
I need to get one of
our
those.
next dude, value or we have Value Village or thrift stores. We'll have them for cheap.
Hmm.
The hard thing is to find like the power cables and to find the capture cables and to find the tapes. Like they're so rare
Right.
now. But we shot our a movie that I'm actually editing today and will be coming out in a week. I don't know for listeners, it's maybe already out. It's called Save Me from the Devil. And we shot a bunch of it on the camcorder.
That is sick.
Dude,
Okay.
it is so unnerving these shots of the camcorder that it almost made me disturbed while I was editing it. And
Yeah.
it's so incredibly effective. I keep using the word effective, but it is so effective that I'm like, I want to do a whole movie on this thing. It's just so it just puts you there in this way, in a way that film and digital just don't. Um,
Absolutely it does.
I love analog. I think there's
Oh,
going to
me
be a whole
too.
renaissance of analog films. So
Well, it's already taking the internet by storm quite a bit. Like with do you watch like stuff like the Mandela Catalog and
I don't know
like
that one, but I definitely watched Backrooms.
Backrooms, yeah. Which the 17-year-old who kind of created one of the first backroom short films is doing a feature film with
He's doing
A24,
it. I know it's wild,
which
but
I
he's
think
super
yeah,
talented, man. The guy did it all in
absolutely.
Blender. He did it. He CG'd the whole thing himself.
The kid's a genius. Like
He's
as
incredible.
someone who watched the original backroom short, the kid's a genius. I want to
What
have
have
him
I
on
done
this. I
with?
want
What am I doing with my life? If this 16
to.
year old is,
I'm 22, and I saw the article. I was like, son of a bitch,
I
this
know. I'm
guy.
like, well, I'm
I was
35. I'm like,
like,
wow, I've really failed here. If this 16-year-old,
oh, this
you
guy better
can't.
post a
You can never
tutorial
think that
video.
way, though, man. You know what? You can
I
never
know.
think
I
that way in
always,
film because there's people who don't even get their films made till they're in their 40s, 50s. So it's
yeah,
like film's an everlasting thing. It's
absolutely,
not about age. So yeah.
absolutely. I always try to, but oh, I'm doing short films. I'm trying to do a feature by the end of 2023. I'd like to, but
Wow, and that's my goal too. But I'm like, I mean, for me, even like the lowest budget I could probably do, I still need like $15,000, right? Like I
right,
gotta feed these crew people, and I can get my crew
absolutely,
and my team to come for like a couple $100 a day, but they're not gonna come for free for 12 days, 14 days of filming.
absolutely.
Uh,
No,
so
yeah, I mean, I love the crowdfunding stuff though. Like, I feel like the horror community is very like good with like indie stuff.
oh yeah, I mean, I should
Like
ask you about that. I should really ask you about that because I'm at that place now where we have Patreon, Deformed Lunchbox. We have Patreon, we have a YouTube
right.
membership, and I've been kind of kicking around the idea about a Kickstarter or a Indiegogo, but I'm just nervous, right? I'm just
I
nervous
think
to do it.
I think you should do it because I mean I've talked to people before, even on the show, people who like act and produce like indie horror features all through Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I mean, Terrifier 2 that started off on Kickstarter. Yeah,
But
I remember.
Terrifier, he had Terrifier 1 to
Oh yeah,
launch that
too.
up
Oh,
though, which is
absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
I remember I donated to the Terrifier 2 Kickstarter back in like 2019, and just like
Nice.
2 months ago, I got my reward thing for it. It
What'd
was
you get?
a signed script for
Oh
Terrifier,
no
which
kidding. How much
they
did you
could.
have to?
I think it was like 40 or something. It was like
Whoa, dude, that's really cool because now
back in
I've heard
2019
that.
because Terrifier was still very small back in
Dude, he
2019.
he also tweeted that he was visiting the A24 offices, so it looks like Terrifier 3 might be a much
Dude,
bigger film. So
Terrif
you having that script is really fucking cool, man.
I need Terrifier 3 to be at the Oscars in 2024.
I mean, that's
I
pushing it.
or 2025 because
I just mean
if
pushing it like you're expecting them to nominate this movie. It's like the
they
most
did send
grind.
them they did send them a copy. I remember Damian Leone, he said he sent the Oscar people like for consideration. He knew he wasn't gonna get it.
The
But
only consideration I could think is makeup effects because the makeup
oh,
and gore
absolutely.
effects are really well done.
They're genius,
But
and he does all of them. Damian Leone does all the makeup
no
effects.
kidding. Wow.
Yeah, remember I talked to him a few times. He's like, I remember at Fantastic Fest where I saw Terrifier 2, he mentioned that he thought about because he did all the effects for Terrifier 1 um by himself. Or
Wow.
he created them and all that. And then for Terrifier 2, he thought about with a actual like company to do it. But he was like, no, I want to have the same style as the original. So we went and directed them again while directing and writing and all that. And I'm like, God, this dude's a fucking
He's cool, man.
genius.
I haven't even seen Terrifier 2. It wasn't playing that much around here. It's
Right.
limited release, but I really like the first one. I found it actually quite I don't want to say it disturbed me, but the gore really got to me. Like it's really visceral.
The sawing scene, I was like, I didn't know you could put
Yeah,
that in a movie. I didn't know you could put that in a
that's
movie
some
without.
bone. It like outdid Bone Tomahawk,
Yeah,
and
I
Bone
was
Tomahawk
like,
was brutal. Have you seen Bone Tomahawk?
I am not. Yeah, I keep being told to
Because they
watch
have
that.
the scene where they spread the guy upwards naked and
Yeah,
they cut him down the middle. But
oh, that's sick.
Terrifier did it worse, and worse as in better.
Yeah, I was watching. I was like, "This is shit you see in like a snuff movie." I don't know if I'm even allowed to be watching this. But I have
love
Terrifier on
love it.
Blu-ray. You get a Terrifier 2 Blu-ray. I need to get
You know
that.
what? That's I gotta say though, that's really motivating what you're telling me about. Because I'm older. I'm not as connected to the with the young people on internet.
I mean, yeah, it's all
If
good.
I do a Kickstarter or something, I might ask you and say, hey man, like what do these rewards make sense? Is this the way we should do it? And I might end up running that by you because it sounds like you
Absolutely.
are more in touch with that
Well,
community than
thank
I
you. Yeah,
am.
I'd be happy to help. I'm always, wanting to get involved with like, horror features and horror, or
Sweet.
just anything horror. I'll be happy to, step in and
Awesome.
talk
Because
people
yeah,
around.
I've written this one I think is good, is gonna be, it's quite disturbing, I think, and
Which
terrifying. And
you said with that camcorder, I'm gonna need you to post it after we stop this. Or I need to tell me how you did that, or I post a tutorial because I
on the
want to.
camcorder?
Yeah, because I remember I had this because this convention I go to every year, Texas Frightmare. Um, they host a fake horror movie trailer contest every year, or something like that, where they would make a fake horror movie trailer and post it. And I had this one idea for one where it was like this guy is like killing people and like he sends VHSs to the
There you go.
news of like all these different murders that he's
That's
committing.
cool.
And I'm like, oh, that'd be such a fun analog horror kind of spoof. That'd be really fun. I'd
The
love to do that.
hardest thing is just getting your hand on the camera and the battery,
Absolutely.
and that
Yeah.
works.
So once I
From
find
there,
one,
it's not that
tutorial.
hard from there, because from there, tutorial wise, I mean, from there, really all you're doing is there's a video output on the camera, and you go video out, you go into a computer or a recorder, and then you just record it on digital from the output.
Oh, that's sick.
But it's just finding them. My friend's a big thrift shop guy, so he found me like the camcorder, the batteries. He got me like an old Wii and all these Wii games. He's like a
Any of them.
thrifted guy.
Any back in the terrific. I remember my grandparents gave me this really old like camcorder that you like hold on your shoulders.
Sick.
I use it in Hunting Terror. It
As
was
like a
really
prop.
short. Yeah,
Cool.
because I
That's
was a
awesome.
journalist, so one of them's gonna have a camera, and I was like, "Well, here,
Well, okay.
hold this giant ass
I
like
mean, but
'80s
that's cool.
camcorder."
It's
I
so,
still have it somewhere. It's
yeah,
like put up somewhere.
that's
But
awesome.
yeah, I really enjoyed using it. I mean, it wasn't on. I didn't have the battery for it, but like holding it looked cool.
I mean, yeah, totally. It's like it puts you in that era instantly. If you see that camera, like,
Absolutely,
okay, I know
yeah,
what year it is, right? It's the
yeah.
90s or 80s.
Yeah. Which I speaking of found footage, have you seen the movie the Poughkeepsie tapes?
No, I haven't even heard of this. What's it called? The Poughkeepsie tapes?
Yeah. Yeah, I can send you. I mean, it's terrifying. It
Okay.
it is shot the whole thing is shot like a crime documentary. Like there's
Okay.
not one beat that feels like a staged movie.
No
I was
kidding.
I was watching it and I was so invested. I was like, I gotta look this case up. I got my phone out and I was like, this is a movie.
Not
And this
real.
I was like, this
When did
didn't
it? When
happen.
did this movie come out?
I'll have to look that up. One.
Because I feel like that I should have heard of this. It sounds really cool, but let me know. I want to watch it ASAP because I've always thought it'd be super cool to mix kind of a fake documentary with horror, not mockumentary, not comedy, but
I
like,
was like, when you mentioned that Halloween idea, that's what it is. So I was like, oh, that
okay,
reminds me of
so
the
I'm not
Poughkeepsie
that
tapes.
right. My idea is not original. Okay.
It is because this is the only one movie I've seen done. So you're still early.
Okay.
No worries there. But yeah, it's called the Poughkeepsie tapes. It came out in 2007,
Okay.
and it's just it feels so very real. It's directed by the same person who did.
Authentic.
I didn't even notice. So I looked this up really just now. But it's directed by the person who did Devil.
Okay.
So
Oh,
that's crazy.
the elevator devil.
Yeah, so
No kidding.
we've come full circle
Sweet.
now.
Okay.
But yeah, you gotta check that out. It just unnerved me so horribly, and just I will never forget that. But while I'm watching it, I try to look up the case, and I'm like, this is a
That's
movie.
hilarious.
It's
I gotta
not
watch. I have to
real.
watch it. I might watch that today because I'm always on the verge for like something cutting edge
It's
style like
it's
that.
scary. It's really scary, and like the actors
Good.
don't seem like they're acting. There's so
I
many.
might I might put it on and tell my girlfriend it's a documentary and be like, hey, you want to watch this crime documentary and just see how she likes it.
That's a good idea. And
Cool.
it just it's good. It's because there's so many because it's about the serial killer in this town, and the FBI is trying to go after him. You
Oh,
know,
cool.
so it's just like there's shots from like the FBI doing a documentary on it, and then there's like it's intercut with like stuff the serial killer recorded.
Oh, no
So
kidding.
there's
Okay.
sequences in it that feel like a stuff film. There's sequences in it that feel like an FBI cop show. And I was like, this is so fucking cool.
I love it.
So
I'm gonna
anyone else listening, check out the Poughkeepsie tapes. Scary,
watch it tonight.
really scary. What? Absolutely. And let me know how it is.
Okay.
Like text me tonight, but yo, I want to know your thoughts.
Okay.
Hell yeah,
Yeah, I'm so into that, man. That's awesome.
yeah. And I remember, like, okay, one question I have for it was, what was your favorite of 2022? A favorite
Favorite
horror,
movie or favorite horror? Okay, I
or
open my
both? I mean, rattle it off,
okay, I
yo.
have my list here, but top movies of 2022.
I have a list
My
as well.
my top 24 movies or whatever. Number one.
Oh, right. Well, that was Talking Terror episode 3, part 1, with Peter Hatch. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to tune in next week for part 2. And be sure to follow me on all my social medias to, be aware of who the next guest will be. Maybe throw in some, questions you want answered. And also just general updates on what I'm up to. Be sure to follow all those. And once again, guys, be sure to get in on this deal with Fangoria. Jacob the Harper is the discount code. I'll have a link down there. 20% off your entire order. I mean, who could pass that up? If you're a horror fan, this is like the freaking Bible, man. This is required reading, right? For a horror fan. All sorts of great articles, reviews, news about upcoming stuff, and it's not just mainstream stuff either. It shines a light on independent horror, which we're all about over here on Jacob Harper and Talking Terror. We're all about independent horror. Let me know who you think I should have on for an episode of Talking Terror as well. I'm always on the lookout to have people on to talk about what's going on in the horror community, new stuff, or just all that general great stuff. So let me know if you have a comment on who I should have next on Talking Terror. I have a few great guests that I'd love to bring on. Um, and yeah, well, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and stream this on Spotify as well if you're on the go, not available on YouTube. Uh, yeah, well, see you guys. Thanks.